GT Cup drivers are a dedicated bunch. Nothing's going to get in the way of them having a great weekend's racing, as I found out earlier. Seamus, you've had a bit of a weekend, haven't you, this weekend at Snetterton?
Yeah, that's an understatement. We raced last weekend at Spa and British GT, and unfortunately I got turned around at Le Camp and the car went into the wall backwards. So we had quite a bit of body damage that the team worked on all week. But we saw the GT Cup was on. We thought, yeah, it'd be good to come up this weekend up to Snetterton. The first little practice session, I got out, drove around the first corner, the second corner, slow speed, and then the throttle just completely went dead. We ended up finding that there's a little thing like that which broke. The throttle is fly-by-wire, so it sends a signal to a little electric motor, and a little tiny spleen, about £5 worth, had snapped, sheared off. They managed to get on a ferry. They then drove from Calais down to Spa. Greg talked his way in, went down to the parts truck, got the little part, back into the car, drove back through Belgium, France. This is last night, all night, and he arrived here at 8:45, and of course the practice was at 9 o'clock. So we just managed to get it finished for the qualifying.
The cars are lining up on the grid here at a very soggy Snetterton for the sprint race. The number 55 Lamborghini Huracan on pole position after a fantastic qualifier. Next to it, the distinctive orange Porsche of Richard Chamberlain. The wets are on. It's slippery out there. Let's go racing.
Thanks, Michelle. As the cars now head off onto their final formation lap around Snetterton, let's have a look at how the full grid lines up. It's John Seal that starts on pole position with Richard Chamberlain alongside. That repaired Porsche of Seamus Jennings on row 2 with Lucky Christoforou. The two Grahams, Dezil and Tilley on row number 3 with James Webb and Sam Randon on row number 4. Steve Chandler and John Whitehouse make up row number 5. Row 6 is Brent Millage and Sander Mortensen. Row 7 is Del Shelton and Lucky Kira. Row 8, David Franklin and Frank Mortensen. And then at the back of the field, it's Fraser Smart and Chris Murphy with Mal Sanford on his own on row number 10. So the cars on their final formation lap coming up towards the start-finish line. It's a good start from Richard Chamberlain from the outside of the front row of the grid by the look of things, and he's going to propel the Porsche into the lead of the race, heading up towards Richie's. John Seal looking to try and hang on to second, sweeps over the nose of Seamus Jennings to hang on to the position, and the two Ferraris very close together there as well, Lucky Christoforou and Graham Dezil. And even behind those two, it looks as though Graham Tilley and James Webb were squabbling over 7th and 8th places in the early stages. You could see the rain on the cameras and just how difficult the conditions are out there. So everybody treading very carefully in the early stages of this one as they work their way round through the hairpin at Wilson. Chris Murphy trying to work his way past the Marcos and the Lotus, but there's an errant Lamborghini facing the wrong way, and that is John Seal, who is slithering his way back off the grass onto the tarmac, and that has left John a huge amount of work to do now to try and get himself back up to the sharp end of the field. He'll pick up some of the lesser powered cars fairly easily, but the further he climbs up through the order, the more difficult it's going to become thereafter. Richard Chamberlain sprinting away in the lead of the race. Remember, he claimed the victory in the first sprint race of the weekend yesterday, and at the moment has opened up quite a gap between himself and Seamus Jennings in second place now, of course, as a result of John Seal having had that rotation. You can see the car sliding on the power as they try and apply the power as gingerly as they can. 21's going well. That's Sam Randon at the wheel of the Group GTH Ginetta. Of course, in these conditions, the lesser powered cars have less of a disadvantage than the more powerful machines, and Sam is really going beautifully well at the wheel of that Ginetta. Up towards Brundle and Nelson, they all work their way. Richard Chamberlain still leading the race. Seamus Jennings in second place. Then the first of the Ferraris, which is Lucky Christoforou from the car of Graham Dezil that sits there in fourth place. Fifth at the moment is going to be that car there, which is Graham Tilley, who's there in fifth place, going well again at the wheel of the Nissan in his first weekend of racing that car. A very, very different car to the Ginetta that he's regularly campaigned for the last few years. up towards the braking area for Murray's. Nissan closes onto the coattails of the 488 Ferrari of Graham DeZiel, but in a straight line the Ferrari starts to pull away again a little bit more over the Nissan. James Webb is a little bit further back at the wheel of his blue Lamborghini, but still inside the top 6 currently. First lap chalked into the book. Up towards the braking area for Ritchie's comes Graham Tilley at the wheel of that ex-RJN European GT3 specification Nissan. But he can't at the moment unlock the door. Graham DeZiel hanging on to 4th position. Through the hairpin again, that wider line being taken, the less polished surface. Here comes the other Lamborghini, the green one off John Seal, working his way past the Porsche of David Franklin, so that's another place gained at least for John Seal, but he really needs to push as hard as he can, and in these difficult conditions, if you do that, it's easy to make another mistake. James Webb looking to try and put Graham Tilley under pressure. Can the Lamborghini squeeze its way through? No, the door's just closed by Graham Tilley, so James Webb for the moment, frustratingly, still down in 6th position. Still early in the race though, so he's still got plenty of opportunity to see whether he can prise that door open and then put the Lamborghini through and ahead of the Nissan. But after that failed attempt, he's just dropped that little bit further back now and isn't going to really pick up the tow and the slipstream as they head onto the Bentley straight this time through. So it's still Nissan ahead of Lamborghini. Here's a replay, and that is Frank Mortensen by the look of things. Yeah, having a brief off at the wheel of the Top Cat's Marcus Mantis. No harm done. He will continue in the race. And here's the sister car to it in the hands of his son, the number 3 car of Sander Mortensen. Currently leads Group GTB, actually, so he's going very well indeed. There's a Group GTH winner from earlier on this weekend, Brent Millage at the wheel of his Porsche Cayman. At the moment, though, it is going to be the number 21 Ginetta of Sam Randon that leads that group. The fight between Nissan and Lamborghini still raging. They're not that far behind the Ferrari either, so it could well be, if they don't slow each other up too much, if they work together, they could catch up with the car of Graham DeZiel that lies ahead of them. But for the moment, I think James Webb is more intent on attacking the Nissan that lies ahead of him. Here's John Seal attacking David Franklin. Well, he had got himself ahead of the Porsche. David Franklin back ahead of the Lamborghini again now, but John Seal grabs the place back as over the start-finish line comes our race leader, Richard Chamberlain, under pressure from Seamus Jennings. Remember, this Porsche, it's the first time we've seen it all weekend. A £5 part is what stopped the car coming out onto circuit yesterday. The team drove from Snetterton all the way over to Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium to pick up the part, come back, only got the car fixed in time literally seconds before qualifying, and what a return Seamus Jennings is giving them on all of their hard work to get him out onto track, pressurising Richard Chamberlain for the win. Needs to be careful though, because the Ferrari of Lucky Cristoforu is not that far behind, and any attempt to try and grab the lead of the race, if it didn't work, may well mean that Seamus Jennings actually lost the position. So the leading trio turning their way round through the left-hander at Agostini. Group GTO cars in 1st and 2nd place. In 3rd place is the Group GTC leading car of Lucky Cristoforu, so he'll be conscious that even if he overtakes the cars ahead of him, it doesn't gain him any more championship points. He's got a championship he needs to think about. He'd like to finish as high up as he can, but a group win is what gives you the points. There is, off the circuit again, Frank Mortensen at the wheel of the Marcus Mantis. We saw him have a problem up there at Oggies earlier on, and now is this James Webb an opportunity to get through and ahead of Graham DeZiel? Yes, it is. He's already dealt with Graham Tilley, and now Lamborghini is attacking Ferrari. Is he going to go through? He's got the advantage. He's a bit later on the brakes. Up towards Oggies, he's on the outside line though, might try and cut back on the exit of it, and he's now going to try and squeeze the Lamborghini up the inside, heading round through Williams. Great defensive work by Graham DeZiel. He's having none of it though. The Ferrari still hangs on to the place. Over the start-finish line come our race-leading trio, ready to start the last lap of the race. Richard Chamberlain under pressure from Seamus Jennings, with Lucky Cristoforu having the best seat in the house. And here comes James Webb attacking Graham DeZiel again. The Ferrari on the right-hand side of the circuit. That gives Graham DeZiel the inside line when they get to the next corner, which is Ritchie's. And James Webb's going to have to go around the outside here if he wants to try and get the Lamborghini through and ahead. He's braving it out all the way around the outside, and it might work in the wet conditions, you know, and it has. It's the Lamborghini that moves up into 4th position now in the hands of James Webb, and Graham DeZiel down into 5th position. Almost outbraked himself though, there was James Webb. Almost ran out of room. Here is the Group GTH leading car, Sam Randon, heading on to his final lap of the race. It's been a solid race so far from Sam Randon, and the Group GTA leading car is the sister car for it from Team Hard. That is in the hands of Stephen Chandler for this race, and he's tucked up behind actually the Group GTB leading car, which is the number 3 Marcus Mantis, in the hands of Sander Mortensen. So those are 2 separate group leaders there, the Marcos and the Ginetta that sits behind as they head their way past one of the Whitebridge Motorsports Aston Martin. But for Richard Chamberlain, it looks as though he is on course for another win in a sprint race here at Snetterton. He claimed one yesterday, he's going to claim another one here today. Accelerates his way out of Murray's for the final time, up towards the start-finish line, and it is going to be a win for the CTR Development Porsche 935 clone of Richard Chamberlain comes through to grab the checkered flag. Seamus Jennings, what a result really for GCAT Racing and Seamus Jennings. After all of the hard work to even get the car on the grid, he comes through and finishes in second place. And winning Group GTC, finishing in third overall, is Laki Christoforou. There's still some racing going out on circuit though. This is for 11th and 12th place overall. The Group GTB leader, Sander Mortensen, at the wheel of the Marcos, under pressure from the Group GTA leader, which is Steve Chandler's Ginetta. Here's the McLaren of John Whitehouse. He's got a run on Brett Millage for second in Group GTH, heading towards the line. And is he going to sneak it? Yes, he does, by 47 thousandths of a second. The McLaren grabs second in Group GTH. Sander Mortensen comes through. He will be the Group GTB winner. The Ginetta behind him will be the Group GTA winner. Another fantastic race, and very, very tricky conditions for the drivers to master. The crowd enjoyed that as well. Let's confirm the result. Richard Chamberlain grabs the win from Seamus Jennings in second place, and Group GTC winner in third place, which is Laki Christoforou. James Webb and Graham Desile ahead of Graham Tilley in the top six, with John Seal in seventh and Sam Randon in eighth, John Whitehouse ninth and Brent Millage in 10th place. Sander Mortensen and Steve Chandler finishing 11th and 12th place, with Lucky Kira, David Franklin, Chris Murphy, Frank Mortensen and Mel Sanford rounding out the rest of the finishers.
Fantastic race for you, Richard, but you were under a bit of pressure, weren't you?
Under a lot of pressure. So we had a few issues, but the car got gradually worse as the race went on, and the last couple of laps were much tighter than I wanted. But that was it. It was good. They were very fair at the front. So he passed me into Wilson's, and I managed to get him out on the way out because he overdid it a little bit. But yeah, it was great, lovely.
So another great race for you then.
Yeah, it was excellent. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I seem to enjoy the wet more than the dry at the moment, and went really well. Yeah, really pleased with it, and team done a great job as always.
Sam, despite the conditions, great race for you.
Perfect conditions for us, really. Totally demonstrated. Horsepower means nothing. It was all down to the technical driving. So no, really pleased and able to get back up on the top step.
Sandy, you must be really happy with that result.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very tough conditions in the Marcos. There's lots of power, lots of torques, manual, everything, and no ABS, no traction control. So yeah, just keeping on the plan, and it's a challenge, and try to race the GT4 cars. And yeah, Marcos, well, Top Cat just did fantastic setup on the car for the conditions. So we're happy. Yeah.
Stephen, another great result for you.
Yeah, I struggled on the outlap, as you can tell. I spun it onto the grass, probably the silliest thing I could have done. But yeah, I just thought I didn't know I could go back into my grid slot, so I just stayed back to not risk getting any disqualifications or any penalty points. I just stayed where I was, and then just decided to get my head in the game, make my way back up. Had another little mishap with a Lamborghini. He sort of tapped me a little bit, but I let him pass. He's got a much faster car than what I do, so I let him round and then just continued with the pace I had, and was having a good race with a couple of the other cars that were a bit faster. So yeah, overall good race, and yeah, hopefully it'll be better even in the endurance race.
We still have the endurance race to come, so we'll see you soon.